with another juggernaut guest. Please welcome back to the show the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and really a very close friend of ours here. Please say hello to Robert Kiyosaki. Welcome back, Robert.
Daniela, well, thank you. I love your program. And by the way, how's the child?
The children, the twins, they are good. They're keeping me sane, perhaps. But yes, thank you for asking. They're doing well. We're happy to be home for the holidays, and we're happy to be speaking with you, Robert, to get your outlook, although I don't think it's a pretty one, for 2022. You've been making headlines, everyone's covering it, where you're warning people, hey, folks, brace for a major market crash here.
Right.
What do you bring us this Christmas, Robert?
Well, the reason I love you guys is because I'm a hardcore gold, silver, and I'm Bitcoin and all this. I'm a hard asset guy. So it's good news for us, but it's bad news for the boomers. Very bad news. And what's happening is Jay Powell of the Fed is trying to push the yield curve up. But as most of you know, the real yield curve is a euro dollar curve. It's not the Fed curve. And the euro dollar curve went inverted. Now, every time that has happened, tragedy follows. So most of us are old enough to remember the last time that yield curve, not the last time, but an earlier time was 2007, the euro dollar yield curve inverted and the Fed was trying to hold it up. So the Fed's pushing it this way, but the euro dollar is going this way. And that led to the Lehman moment, 2008. So then what happened in 2019, it inverted again, the repo market inverted, the euro dollar inverted, and COVID appeared. So once again, the euro dollar yield curve inverted just recently. And I'm standing alongside my friend Jim Rickards that this next one is going to be the biggest of all. Now, it's good news for some people, but horrible news for the boomers who are starting to retire. So if you're a stock market person and you're counting on the stock market to keep you alive,
yeah,
let's say you're 65 years old and you're going to live to 85, you might be in serious trouble.
And I know a lot of people in that category, Robert. Can you talk a little bit more to that? Because I know so many folks saying, I'm in the stock market, it's roaring now. They're almost placing all their eggs in that basket. Right. Let's talk about the dangers there.
It's really horrible. But it was predicted in this book here. I'm not a communist, but it's called the Communist Manifesto. And, I'm just shamelessly plugging my book, The Capitalist Manifesto, which comes out in a few weeks. But this book here is only 50 pages. My book is 500 pages. But Marx was an idiot, but he was a smart guy. He predicted everything that's happening today in America. So he said that what's going to happen, and it's happening in this country here, is the boomers will go bust.
You know what's interesting, Robert? I thought of you, in doing the research, and I was listening attentively to every word that Jay Powell was saying in his most recent press conference. And he kept hammering home the point of how healthy the economy is, how great and I remember listening to the news conference. I'm turned to my husband. I'm thinking, is he living in the same world that I'm living in? I mean, as you know, Robert, I live in New York City. I'm passing by, I don't know how many homeless people, on my walk to the grocery store. It's looking worse to me. Am I wrong? Who's wrong here?
Well, let me say it again. This book was written in 1848. It is prescient. It is calling exactly what's happening today, 1848 till today. So unfortunately, what Marx was saying was that capitalism would destroy 50% of the population and shove them into poverty. So what happened was this book was written in 1848. 1960, I started studying it in 1965. I went to school in New York. I went to military school. 66, I'm in Vietnam as a student with the Merchant Marine Academy, and I could see what this book was saying coming to life. 72, I'm flying in Vietnam. I was a Marine pilot. It's my squadron patch. And then in 74, ERISA comes out. And ERISA is Employee Retirement Income Security Act, today known as the 401k. So you have all of these baby boomers who have no idea about markets, and they blindly give their money over to Wall Street, who will rip them off. I mean, I'm not against Wall Street. I'm just against corruption. They rip them off. They don't know what's going to happen. And now, exactly as Rickards has been saying, he says the Fed, the most incompetent people going, they're telling everything's going right. Whereas the euro dollar market is so much bigger than the Fed. The euro dollar market is the biggest market in the world, and it's just inverted. We're going down.
I'm happy you brought up Jim Rickards. He just kicked off this Outlook series, Robert. I just had him on, had an incredible conversation. One thing that struck me, and you know how much of a genius Rickards is he believes that we've actually reached peak inflation, that the worst in terms of inflation is behind us. I'm not sure if you agree with him there, because he's saying the reason that we got into this inflationary environment is not because of money that was released into the system, but because of bad policies from the Biden administration, but that we've peaked here in terms of that inflation. Do you agree?
The biggest problem, again, is the euro dollar system, which is 1,000 times bigger than the Fed, is crashing. Europe is going down right now. I mean, if you see the report, and this is not me speaking, this is the Wall Street Journal talking about it. There's so many rioting going on about this COVID stuff. People just don't want to take it anymore. The uncertainty is too high, so the euro dollar system is trying to go down. But Jim Rickards talks about a thing called Triffin's dilemma. Triffin's dilemma took place in 1944 when the US dollar became the reserve currency of the world. And what that meant was the US dollar was screwed anyway. So one of these, I'm a gold bug and a silver bug and a Bitcoin bug and all this. I just don't trust the Fed. And all these people say, oh, don't fight the Fed, ride with the Fed. They're full of it. And so when I listen to Jim Rickards, it's about Triffin's dilemma. We always have to run a deficit. And now we can't run it much longer. So more than inflation or deflation is that the euro dollar market the index has inverted. Every time that has happened, something bad has happened. That's what I'm concerned about.
I just want to talk to your timeline a bit, because as you know, Robert, when you stick your neck out with a forecast, people will come at you and be like, oh, you're off. You said that last month, or you said that 6 months ago. So I respect the fact look, you're really putting yourself out there when you say a forecast, right? So to the folks out there who say, well, Robert, you said the crash was coming in October. What's your response to them?
It happened with inflation going up, but the thing is, it's already coming down. If you look at how Rickards, now I love Jim Rickards, you can tell. When you look at the numbers, is that we're already in a depression. In other words, if economies have been growing at 3%, it's only growing at 2%. That's a technical depression. And that's what he's saying in this new book, The New Depression. So people are watching, oh, the stock market's up, everybody's happy and all this, but everything's inverting upon us. So just recently, the euro dollar curve inverted. Every time that has happened, it was followed by Lehman Brothers, and it was followed by COVID. And so this one is going to happen again. And that's why I'm saying to people, because I'm a gold and silver and Bitcoin bug, this is a good time to get into gold and silver now. That's what I'm saying.
Well, let's talk about that, because our audience loves when you bring this up about how Robert Kiyosaki protects himself. We know you love gold. We know you love silver. We know you love Bitcoin. Are you completely or do you aim to be completely out of cash?
No, I have no problem with cash. I'm just saying right now, if you're a boomer, what this guy Marx wrote about was that 50% of our population was shipped from, let's say, proletariat to poverty. That's what he was calling for in 1848. And when I saw 1974 come, and that's when they put us into ERISA, Employee Retirement Income Security Act, or the defined contribution, or the 401k, or the IRA, it shoved all of these amateurs, people with no financial education, into the stock market. And Jim Rickards and I are good friends, you can tell. But when we were kids, nobody was in the stock market. We're in the bond market.
That's right.
Remember that? And he says suddenly they needed to find a way to get some stupid people into the stock market. So they got the 401k, and all the boomers are in it. So we shifted from defined benefit pension plan. So Ford Motor Company has a defined benefit. So Ford Motor stood behind the retirement.
Yeah.
And then when we went to, in 74, it shifted to defined contribution. And I've talked to Jim about this. I said, oh my God, that was the beginning of the end at that point, because it was pushing all of us, us boomers, into the stock market, not the bond market.